I guess to start everyone off, I thought it would be a good idea for us to just make sure we're all on the same page about what actually is a programmable network. So if maybe we go starting from right to left, as you look at us on stage, and if you could just intro yourself, your role, and kind of what the phrase programmable networks means to you. So Pablo, do you want to kick us off with that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks everyone for sticking around. I'm Pablo Castillo. I work for Easy. That's IZZI. It's the largest MSO operator in Mexico. Programmable network, basically dynamically controlled or managed using software-based approaches. I think that's the general idea.
Great, thanks. Rajesh?
Hi, my name is Rajesh. I'm with Verizon. Very excited to be here. We were just joking, saying it's the last session of the day, and we at least would have 6 people here. But we're very excited to have so many people here. So I'm part of the Verizon Consulting Services. What we do is we help enterprise customers. We build the strategies and the network designs and so on. So when we talk about the programmable networks, we talk about how does a network look like that solves the needs of the customer today, as well as the needs of tomorrow, right? Even for use cases that the customers haven't thought about. So how do you look at the real-time visibility? How do you actually adapt those things to deliver new things like that? So that's the program network, and especially from Verizon's perspective, it's not just the core, not just the software-defined networks, but it's also getting down to the last mile, right? So how do we do the slicing? So we have an opportunity where the network can be completely programmed all the way from the core till the last mile.
Okay. My name is Vasily Mukin. I'm a product manager of Juniper Networks. I'm part of the group which stands behind those big routing systems, the MAX, PTX, if anybody of you ever heard about this thing. And so my group and my experience very much connected to the old school networking, very much on the automation side, which we call the DevOps type of thing, not much on the AI side. And all in all, the sustainability which we're going to discuss in connection with the automation and programmability, it stands high for the company. But the point which I want to mention here is, as I said, that my experience goes back into roots of networking with some 20 years of background, and the fact that the guy like me got into the panelist session for sustainability means this is really, really big.
Great, Ron.
I'm Ron Porter. I head product marketing at Amdocs for network OSS and 5G solutions. And I think programmable network, even if I look from Amdocs' perspective, Amdocs started many years ago from billing, then to wider BSS space, and actually not so long ago, it's already quite a few years, moving into OSS and deep down into the network, because the network became programmable, right? We don't make boxes, we don't make hardware, but we make a lot of telco software, and this need emerged as a network, starting from the days of NFV, SDN, our first days in ONAP, and as the network became more and more mixed with the cloud, evolving into ORAN, 5G. So all this programmability and dynamic nature that came into the network really is what was driving our involvement in it. And also, I think in a way, so we'll talk about it, it adds a lot of complexity, but it also adds a lot of opportunities in the ways to adapt the network to what you need from it at any specific time.
Cool, thanks. And I mean, you've touched on my next question, so very nicely set up, Ron, which was going to be, what are some of the benefits that operators are looking to achieve from programmable networks? So maybe Rajesh, we can start with you with Verizon. What kind of benefits are you looking to achieve by shifting towards more programmable networks?
Yeah, so when we look at the benefits of the programmable networks, there's the customer side of things. So this is the customer experience, right? So if you are things are moving at a very fast pace, and how does the network keep up with how do we deliver those things, right? So that's the customer experience side. But on the other side, on the operator side, this comes down to the agility, right? The cost. So when we look at the entire cycle of deploying a network and delivering services, we go all the way from your customer expectations or your customer experience to development, development to deployment, deployment to operations, and then finally decommission. So when you start looking at each of these areas, the programmable network makes it easier in each of the segments, right? So for example, previously we had to build these things that were very custom for for delivering certain things, but right now, after you separated these two planes, software is actually what's controlling the delivery of that. If you look at the operations, how do we get the visibility? How do we change these things? All those things becomes very much. It's not only just the cost aspects, but also how quickly can we deliver things and how agile can we get into. And then from a cost perspective, when we start looking at the programmable networks, we can really optimize our networks. Where how do we adapt to the changes the customers want, and then quickly turn on services, bring back things, and so on.
Cool, thanks. And what about for yourselves, Pablo, Easy? What is it? The same benefits that you're looking to achieve, or are there any nuances there for yourselves?
Well, yes, in theory, yes. We are maybe in Mexican market and maybe even LATAM a bit behind sustainability goals. We have the traditional objectives, reduce cost, improve operational efficiency. But my role is as an innovation manager, and innovation, even more than technology, something that I'm really passionate about. So for me, and I've heard it all around this conference, the abstraction part and the hiding of the complexity, myself and some parts of my team, most of my team and colleagues at EC, we feel and we are very passionate about bringing non-technical people into exploiting network capabilities. So it's been said plenty, APIs that can close the gap between the huge development communities that have been sharing code and knowledge forever and the complex networks that are changing super fast. So one of the more maybe romantic things that we are looking for with programmable network capabilities is for those developments to abstract capabilities in such a way that those other industries or non-techie guys can use the network functions and propel innovation.
And for you guys that are more on the vendor side, are you looking to provide those same kinds of benefits, or are you thinking even bigger picture, maybe further down the line? Vasily, you're grinning there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I believe that's a big one question, actually. And the benefits from programmable network is obviously everywhere. And I agree with Pablo, so it's easier to connect it with the day-to-day benefits of operations, which are maybe obvious, but still we can connect it to the sustainable network or sustainable operations in a very practical way, as a matter of fact, because it all depends on what component of the network we want to be programmable. And interestingly enough, so sustainability comes across probably three major things, right? So we're talking about maybe triggering some new business, or coming to some power consumption, or say becoming more green in terms of the carbon footprint. And if we just focus on one, and by the way, people as well, right? So if we focus on the power consumption, so just a simple feature like you may be able to program your network nodes to turn off a couple of non-used packet forwarding engines, right? And so that opens up new opportunities, right? So definitely to use this programmable property of the network will save you tons of dollars, right? And bring you to the next level of your sustainability objectives, which will be just, I want to be 3-5% more power efficient from year to year, right? And well, that's really value and benefit on this front. So there may be some more examples about the people, but maybe we'll talk in the context of some other questions on it.
for sure. And Ron, do you have anything to add on that point?
Well, I think we started with the classic, looking to reduce cost and enhance new revenue, which is, again, I think the goal of many of the things we're doing. So I agree with most of what's being said. I think I like to use the analogy of, the evolution of the public cloud, right? If you thought at the beginning we used to have these remote storages of 1 gig to, and it was static, and the beginning of the cloud was very similar to that, not so much programmable. As the cloud evolved, enhanced automation, programmability in the cloud. So first of all, it reduced cost. You could offload your data centers. That contributes, of course, to sustainability because, again, sharing of resources, et cetera. And the public cloud providers started to offer additional services, right? Not just and it just keeps growing, adding partners into there. And the same thing, I think, is happening across the network. And it's not just 5G, it's like this 5G era of network and cloud mixing together. So obviously on the reduction of cost and, lowering power consumption or resource utilization is obvious, but even in offering new services, an example we did in the 5G Open Innovation Lab just a year ago was at a farm, and like was mentioned here, exposing these services to a farmer. There was an application that does optimization of water and irrigation and pesticides. Now, again, before the programmable network, the application was there. He could take the drone footage, but then he had to download it and upload it to the cloud. It's remote. It took hours. By, having this end-to-end cycle, leveraging an edge and a private network and a backhaul, and having everything automated and programmable, he could get these results in minutes and save 50% of water. And that's sustainability right in there on the new services side. So I think that's a good example.
Cool, thanks. I mean, I'm interested, you've obviously mentioned several points, but one of the key ones is around optimizing for different attributes, things like cost or energy efficiency, for example. And maybe I'll go back to you, Rajesh. How are Verizon balancing those different drivers, things like optimizing for cost, energy efficiency, low latency? I'm aware that Verizon has obviously net zero goals that they're looking to achieve, but also cost reduction goals. How are you balancing those and measuring and working towards multiple goals in that area?
Yeah, in terms of the sustainability goals, I'm very proud to be working for an employer that really believes in the sustainability aspects, right? So we have some very optimistic goals. By 2035, we're going to be net zero from our operational emissions, right? So and then also every 5 years we have bigger goals. So 2025 will, and when you look at the sustainability, we always talk in terms of the 3 R's, right? The reduce, the reuse, the recycle, and so on. So that same concept applies for the telcos as well, right? So how do you actually reduce these things, or how do you use more of the resources that are renewable energy, right? So for example, by 2025, our goal is to get 50% of all the electricity for our operations from renewable energy, and then by 2030, it's going to be 100% of that. So and then we're one of the first telcos that actually launched like a green bond. And most of those investment actually goes to the getting the renewable contracts and so on. So both solar, wind, all those things. So by doing so, we are actually reducing the carbon emissions. But at the same time, this goes to the model of how do we grow a business responsibly, right? So it's not just about more emissions, but also being responsible to the environment, making sure that we are using all the renewable energy sources that we have, and then still providing the services. And then at the same time, if you look at like a lot of the on the mobile side, right? So we actually recycle a lot of these phones, right? So each of those things normally would end up in a landfill, but these things have been taken. It has a higher energy life, and the things that I talked about from the customer experience to the development to deployment. If you look at when we have these programmable networks, it is actually expanding the time that things are being used from the deployment operations till decommission. Previously, we had to change these hardware boxes, right? Right now, we are keeping those boxes intact. We're changing the software. So this is actually saving us a lot of money, but at the same time, we're also helping the environment, reducing all the other waste that's coming in.
Interesting. And then I guess maybe Ron, let's go back over to you. Are you seeing different drivers such as sustainability competing against cost reduction and other drivers of demand for yourselves with Amdocs? Or is it still traditional kind of cost drivers that you see more of the demand for and kind of market your products more towards?
Well, I think that the good news is obviously often it's aligned, right? If you look into energy consumption, obviously, and that's a big thing because of, energy costs are rising, and also because the 5G, especially 5G and millimeter wave, different radios of 5G will take enhanced power consumption. So there's ongoing, exploration to reduce these costs, which is very aligned with sustainability. And having said that, there's increased focus, I think, across the industry on ESG in general and sustainability. And, so we get these requirements from our customers, and we're also, looking into it internally, right? Even from a marketing perspective, in MWC in Barcelona, one of the key themes we had this big counter of, energy saving and, the contribution that is being made because it's a key focus. And we used it for marketing, but obviously this drives a lot of the considerations into the product. Mm-hmm. Obviously it helps so that it's, these things are aligned and it makes sense. And the fact that it also translates not just in the power consumption, because often these things are driven by automation. So when you enhance automation throughout your network and better connect it to the real-time business needs, so again, you're saving money, and at the same time, you're contributing to sustainability. And we have the advantage of having this end-to-end view, right? Both from the business service requirements down into the network, so having this real-time digital experience connection, which again, the key driver is the customer expectations, but we get this additional benefits. And the other fact is, when we look at the network, across the network, we have this end-to-end view. So again, before, when you had this very siloed operations and traditional operations, even in things like inventory, we'd be hearing from customers that they were still discovering unused assets or, dozens of servers that are lit up somewhere, not used just because, it's still siloed inventories they're not able to track. And now they want to move to more end-to-end view to enhance automation, to enable these new services, et cetera. But we're getting all these benefits. So you're switching it off unused assets and exploring new ways to work, exploring more distributed architecture, multiple edge locations, things like that. O-RAN, which is another area, right? Adding Rick, and I think Mark Brown from Dish mentioned it even this morning, how he's a key driver to energy efficiency, and it's all about programmability, automation, and connecting it to the service requirement. Because at the end of the day, it is a business, right? If somebody wants a service, you want to be able to lit up and do the, choose the right spectrum, activate the radio, find the right edge, activate those, instantiate whatever is needed. And ideally, once it's not needed, power it off as much and balance it out.
Yeah, and you mentioned there are obviously several different drivers, things like automation and cloudification, that are all working kind of together with pretty large synergies between them in the general network transformation journey, if you will. And Pablo, I don't know for yourselves at Easy how you're considering those different elements. You mentioned that you're potentially at an earlier stage than some other operators, but are you considering those different elements kind of in one big network transformation package, things like automation and cloudification? How are you working through those to reach more sustainable operations?
Yeah, a big network package, I guess. It's very evolutionary. So we basically take advantage of business opportunities or projects. As of today, sustainability is not the main driver, but certain people within the engineering team and innovation team, we are plenty aware of it. So we have started introducing clauses, for example, in RFPs regarding automation and cloud workloads, and taking advantage of the panel here. We rely a lot in vendors, right? So we in our operation, the skill set is not necessarily mature. We are a quite traditional engineering team. We've started, of course, using more cloud tools, more on the development part of the industry, but it's very early stages for us. So we are relying on partners and vendors that can integrate these concepts into their solution. And probably for us, that will be the way in which we can have quick access to the benefits. We are using cloud technologies, but pains me to say that we use the new technologies with the old way of thinking. So we spin up some instance and automatic scaling up or down is we have failed maybe to give confidence to our bosses that works okay. So we are used to basically, we are focused in business value and high availability. So it's maybe easy for us to say, leave it always on, right? Even though it's in a cloud and the capabilities are there, I guess that we are facing maybe social limitations ourselves. We have to get over ourselves.
And maybe just a bit of a follow-up to that. Are you starting to kind of track the benefits of any of these programs at all? Or is it still very nascent, early days, and that's something that you would look to slightly further down the line?
More the latter, I guess.
No worries. What about you, Rajesh? How are you guys at Verizon managing to kind of track the benefits of these shift towards programmable networks?
So in the work that I do, I mainly work with other customers as well. So many of the things that we start with is looking at the business value of things, right? And then so when we talk about a project, we talk about the total cost of ownership. So when we are helping them migrate to the cloud, we are showing them that this is the current energy utilization that they have with their on-prem servers. But this is what is going to happen once you migrate it. You have the options where, is it a VM? Is it a container? I mean, and where do you actually position those, right? So one of the things that we do is when we look at a workload, we could actually break this thing down into those where certain critical low latency workloads can go into the edge, right? Certain things are going into the cloud region services. So when you look at this, the cost is actually a combination of, is the traffic coming all the way from the end device to the edge to the cloud, right? Because there's a network cost associated with it. Where is it running? There's like a compute cost associated with it. So we look at each of these things and then show them like this is the value of moving to a particular place versus the others.
I guess once that kind of project has started and the programmable networks are starting to be deployed, are you tracking any specific KPIs with those enterprise customers?
Absolutely. So we actually look at like the complete utilization. What are the things that is happening, and then many of these things it's built using the automation where we're turning down things when they're not needed and scaling up as we need it. And then on our enterprise side again, you could have like all these servers running all different times, or you could have break this. You have the model of are you just shifting and putting it in the cloud, or are you refactoring it and then making sure like you have those separate components, right? So we look at each of those models, look at a complete architecture models. After that, like we have the visibility of how these things are running, where's the cost accumulated, and then based on that we do the optimization.
So, I guess we talked about some of the benefits and, how we might track that, etc. But I'm interested to know about what some of the challenges of shifting towards more programmable networks are, and whether there's some kind of unforeseen challenges that you guys have faced in your programmable networks deployments. Maybe Vasily, you want to kick us off on that one?
Oh, we all about the challenges and solving the challenges, of course. Okay. The actual challenges, actually, as it has been mentioned during the AI session, it's probably a challenging task itself to automate, right? And okay, if we look into this broadly, not just a programmable network, but programmable network as a part of the mm, overall automation complex. But yeah, I believe it is a journey, and the key thing here is to be consistent. And well, Juniper is acting right now very much actively in promoting our own automation solution. But yeah, it's not going immediately to the high targets. So we developing it on the case by case basis. One of the first case, for example, we're looking into this as a network onboarding. And especially I'm talking it from my own perspective, because we all has our own biases here. And so my belongs to the large network infrastructures, which can be used for, well, and not can, but they are used for mobile backhaul or some metro network applications, right? And so here you can end up with deploying and onboarding network with the tens of thousands devices, and this is not an exaggeration. So this is kind of the so Rajesh can confirm probably how many they have in Verizon. So and yeah, so seems like this is a low hanging fruit. Talking about the challenges, all right. But interestingly enough, this case addresses some interesting targets of the sustainability as well. If I can just go back and connect things together here, because well, if we think so, the point here that let's say I want to decrease. Let's say I'm in charge of deploying this large network infrastructure, and I need to plan my installers writing to this 10,000 nodes actually all across the nation, all the country. And let's say if I put my objectives like I want to decrease the number of trips per each installation from 3 to 2, so it means overall 10,000 less trips, and that immediately makes me way more greener.
Yeah.
Right, on the carbon footprint side. So that's very interesting how those programmability and automation can be connected to the sustainability objectives.
And I guess, Ron, for you, as we start to move past the kind of low hanging fruit into more end-to-end automation and starting to bring the likes of AI into things and with more advanced solutions, how do you see the kind of range of challenges changing, I guess, and the range of benefits changing as we move into more advanced solutions in this space?
I think that the biggest challenge is complexity, because it adds, right? Programmable networks add complexity when it's boxes and cables. The worst thing you have is a spaghetti of cables, like, I don't know if we've all, but if any of you have seen the back of a rack in old days knows how that looks. But as it gets programmable and scales up, the complexity increases. And of course, programmable, sorry, it typically also means multi-vendor, even enhances complexity. I think one area we're seeing it is in O-RAN that seemed a huge promise, and now it's complicated to do. So it's taking time to find the middle ground of optimizing, the complexity versus benefit. Similar thing with network slicing, which was, hyped for many, many years. And once, we had to start getting our hands dirty and making it work, people were like, oh, this is complicated because I need to look at the RAN and maybe an edge and transport and core, maybe all the way into the cloud. And focusing all this end to end is complicated. On the other hand, there is progress that's being made, and this connects to the other challenge, which is a little bit of, the evolution, the change of the mindset, right? Both in the how people operate, and it was mentioned here, right? People need to work in new ways and adapt, and I think that's, everybody's talking about the people factor in that. Which is also in the mode of operations and in breaking down the silos. And I think that's something that we do see more and more, and working more with our customers. And in some places, it's more at a POC stage. How do you work to bring up this end-to-end slice? And I mentioned the example before, but we've done other examples with other operators to deal with that, focus on specific use cases, and then see how it scales up to best leverage and optimize the network as is needed. Keeping in mind that, again, I was going to say almost no one is greenfield, right? So everyone is brownfield. So it's not like you can come and paint it however you are in the optimal way. I mentioned inventory, but same thing could be with orchestration or assurance or all of these things. There are existing systems there. And when we come to our customers, nobody wants to rip and replace everything and do it. So we need to find the way to do it. Sometimes it's federation. Sometimes it's identifying specific use cases to make this advance into this automated, more end-to-end business-focused network. And then the benefits also in the term of sustainable operations, mature over time, and they're tracked. And again, so like I said, on a higher note, we've been talking about 5G for so long that people now are like, they've become a bit of anti to 5G or to slicing. But the fact is that, we just started talking about it too early.
If I may add.
And I'm from marketing, so, I might be the blame.
So I agree, Ron. Complexity is a big issue. I think you mainly referred to the complexity of the network. In my experience as an operator, that has also translated into a more complex vendor ecosystem. So now a lot of different solutions and niche brands are starting to pop up everywhere. That adds to the complexity. I guess complexity brings more complexity, but it also has a certain opportunity feeling to it. There's more to pick and choose, so you can build your operational environment. But another aspect that is very relevant to us is knowledge transfer. So now we have a significantly larger tool set, and we always have this business pressure to do more with less. So now one guy has to use, 20, 30 different tools to accomplish something within the efficiency that we are looking for. So on a management perspective, that is also a big challenge.
Cool. We are rapidly running out of time, so I will ask one more question to all of our panelists, which is essentially, what is your key takeaway from today's session? So if you could sum up kind of everything we've spoken about and the potential future of programmable networks as a key element for sustainable operations, if you could sum up your thoughts on that in one sentence, what would that be? And we can start at the far end with Ron once you've done with your water.
So first, I didn't comment about the number of people, but I'm super proud, guys, and I'll be the last. So I guess that's my. I think my main takeaway is I think we touched on it in different ways. It's a journey. It's taking time, but it's not a bad thing. It's taking time. It's people need to think. And I gave the cloud example. It's something that took years to get to. We're used to it now. So, and I'm happy to say that I think we're advancing on this journey, both, Amdocs internally, but also as an industry, of course. And, focusing on the new use case is great. Focusing on the reduced cost is great, but sustainability, like we say, it's a good thing that it's also part of the mix.
Sure. What about you, Vasily?
Okay, so I would say that my takeaway came from the getting prepared for this panel session. Interestingly enough, because I started to think through what are actual practical connection between the sustainability or being sustainable and network programmability. So actually, there is no, let's say, explicit connection, at least at the first sight. And the takeaway is that it is there. It is there, and those couple of examples which I show how just the being programmable or automated can literally and immediately translates into the sustainable goals. That's actually really, really interesting, and I suggest everybody, whoever look into this specifically practical aspects of this thing. So it is there. Yeah.
My key takeaway is I'm pleasantly surprised seeing so many people, even at the end of the session. The sustainability is becoming a must these days for any companies that is trying to do business, and programmable networks are very much in alignment with helping those goals. And definitely think it's a journey and a combination of all the vendors, the operators, the consumers for the good.
Cool. last but not least.
So mine is kind of a two-part or two key takeaways. One is basically what you said, Vasily. For me, this was a very, very rich exercise of connecting these two concepts. So that is important and valuable for me. And another one is that, and I've heard it before, our customers and our users don't really care about technology as we do. And that's fine. I mean, that's the way it has to be, as we don't care about other industries' know-how. But again, I feel that there is a great value that we can derive from abstracting and leveraging that difference in interests on the other half of the non-technical population of the world.
Great. Thank you very much to all of our panelists. We do have time for a couple of questions, if there were any from the audience. Yes, there is a microphone coming for you from the back.
My name is Tarkan. I am a guy with programming networks for long years. Even by enabling AI for us. A couple of years with AI works. So far, generally as a landing from the landing side, we were the main responsible of managing network since we are deploying the self-organizing network solution. Our RX currently, and now we are opening the interface, standardizing it in online, so which is also very good for us. We are able to access different resources now to take more granular actions. And in operator side, like Megna explained in the previous segments, there are different groups in operators who are accessing the networks, AI keys. There are third-party RF developers who will come to operator side. So how operators are thinking, my question to operators, how do you think to manage this responsibility? Everyone will be able to access network easier, taking some actions. Do you study any policy, any framework, any orchestration layer to manage this type of harmful actions on your network?
Which one of you guys takes it?
Yes, would be the quick question. So we do have an orchestration layer in place, but security is always a big concern. And I mean, programmability and automation is one of the, I think maybe the only way in which we can react in a timely fashion. For example, we could isolate part of the network if we detect that something is being, looks weird, right, off the baseline or something. So yes, it's a very big consideration. We don't have it figured out totally. Things are moving really, really quick, but it's always keep us up at night that someone or something could be purposely or not in certain parts of the network where they're not supposed to be. Yeah.
And just to add to that, privacy is another concern, right? So, I mean, as a provider, like we probably have the location services of, where these things are moving, but that's like it's, you can't just expose that, right? But the things that we can expose, the thought is more of a orchestration layer and network APIs and so on that we will do.
Are there any other questions from the audience? One there, back left.
So I guess I would understand that part of being sustainable would come from extending wherever possible the life cycle, the lifetime of an asset. And I was just wondering how you guys think about that in comparison to perhaps implementing a programmable network solution, which might be more energy efficient. And how do you think about and calculate the interplay between those, between saying we have legacy equipment, but we want to extend the lifetime of that equipment because there's embedded carbon in that we don't want to put in the bin, but also we would like to have solutions in place to help reduce energy that are more energy efficient and help to power down and so on and so forth. So just any opinions on the interplay between those two and how you see operators managing it?
Who wants to take that one.
I would say, again, it's a delicate balance, and it connects to what I said before, even with regards to, I talked about systems and software, but I think the same is true for hardware. And we're seeing it in the radio. Operators are looking, they know how to evolve. Often where things are there and working, and most of the time it's business considerations. If it still justifies its existence and it makes more money and it doesn't make, there's an ROI model, then often, the operators will see how to keep it in place. But again, the programmable networks gives you more flexibility into seeing how you, balance these things out. And you can maybe add, so even if you take some central office or some data center at a metro that an operator might be still using, and now he might be wanting to migrate and leverage some edge solutions, maybe his own edge solutions or extension of hyperscalers. So again, I imagine it'll be a trial and, trialing, seeing how it works. And over time, if it justifies that and the equipment does get old over time, it'll find the optimal way to retire it or reuse it.
Yeah.
Great. We'll go on, then we'll have one more very quick question.
Data sets.
I can just shout, but yeah. One more question, which actually relates to the previous question about extending the hardware. Is I know that the hardware manufacturers have not been particularly great about being sustainable in terms of like the efficiency. Every time you drop a giant heat sink on your chip, you know that you're wasting energy. So how much can we pressure the hardware manufacturers to participate in this sustainability as part of the larger ecosystem?
Okay, I don't know, so I can take it because. So the short answer is, I think, and I would answer the whole industry, we are all in. And as I said at the very beginning of the introduction part, so sustainability factor stands very, very high, and power consumption is one of them. And there are certain different ways how we're considering it. So first of all, okay, so it consumes as much as it consumes, as a matter of fact, to deliver the performance which is required for the given solution. But there are always considerations about how to make it most optimal. So if I have a multi ASIC or multi network processor system, so I will look and think, or as a product manager, will put requirement that, okay, guys, so it needs to be I should be able to turn it off if I'm not using it, and do it through the programmable way, right? There are multiple things, of course. So the way how to let's say combine things inside it, and to make sure that my fan spins as slow as possible, not consuming the extra energy. So I would say you can push on the hardware vendors, but be gentle.
I think about it, it's also connected, by the way, to technology evolution. If you look at radio, like 3G radios are turned off and taken away, not because they stopped working, but the technology evolves, new requirements, and data centers now, if you need now GPUs instead of, or different technology, and technology often moves faster than the hardware. So.
Yeah, and I just like to add that I feel that these sustainability ideas should not dampen economic activity. So it feels like we have to be careful, and we don't want to decommission this equipment. Leads me to think about this circular economy concept, right? So we of course have to pressure manufacturers, but a big question is what happens. I mean, I wanna upgrade the network, and I want to move quickly to make the future now. But the question is, not for me, it's less if you upgrade or not than when. I mean, if you got the money and you've got the business justification, an important question is what is going to happen with those materials that you are going to be decommissioning in the equipment, and can you feed them back into the loop in order to gain the benefits of the new designs, right?
Great. Thank you very much again to our panel. And thank you guys for staying to listen.